Okay, we're doing quotes from Holy Grail Wisdom Quotes by me, Pete Rogers, alphabetical order. First guy today, Arnold Toynbee. Arnold Toynbee was a brilliant historian from England. He especially was important for the history after World War I and World War II. He actually, what had happened in Europe was World War I was like a suicide attempt. And Europe's like, what the heck happened? And World War II was just as bad or worse. So basically, they're very sad, World War I and World War II. The high point of European culture ever was the 1800s, the Belle Epoque, the Gilded Age, okay? So when Europe basically decided to commit suicide, people were freaked out by it. And up until then, neoclassicism had been very strong. The idea of the ancient Greeks and Romans, the idea of the noble, powerful individual, that a great hero like Achilles could turn the tide in a battle. The brilliance of Odysseus, one man could turn the tide in the siege of Troy. Whereas after World War I, out on the Western Front, you get up on a charge and the guys are plowed down by machine guns. It was depressing. It was like, what can an individual do in the face of automatic weapons? Not much, okay? There's the story of Sergeant York, of course, but there's also this psychological loss of hope, of disillusionment, and this famous line, the end of all that. And so they're trying to readjust their sense of what's possible, what's reasonable, what's good for the individual after the sequela of World War I. And so Toynbee, as a historian, he also wanted to answer that question. What happens to civilizations? Why do they succeed? Why do they collapse? And so he wrote this massive 12-volume book about the story of civilization and why they succeed or collapse. And I'll just share with you some of his quotes. He said, the aim of education should be to teach people to educate themselves. So remember that. In the public schools, the grade schools, high schools, and colleges even, they don't teach study skills, okay? They're not trying to help you. They're just trying to make you conformist and stupid. The most important thing you should teach is the Bible, the ancient Greeks, and study skills, okay? Come on. Anyways, next quote. Lifelong part-time education is the surest way of raising the intellectual and moral level of the masses. The most important thing in a person's life is their relationships. Civilizations, I believe, come to birth and proceed by and grow by successfully responding to challenges. They break down and go to pieces if a challenge confronts them and they don't rise to meet it. There's a golden mean between too much of a challenge and they're crushed by it, they're overwhelmed, overpowered, and conquered, or too little and they stagnate and they become Epicureans, hedonistic. Okay, civilizations usually die by suicide and not by murder. Look at the West now. It's basically been feminized and wimpified, pussified, and it's collapsing and allowing itself to be destroyed. It doesn't have to be destroyed. There's nothing to replace it. What are you going to replace the Bible with? Drag Queen Story Hour? Okay, is that going to be the future of civilization? Is anal sex going to be made a sacrament, and then the traditional heterosexual family is going to be destroyed and forgotten? The majority of babies is going to be bumped off? Is that what anybody wants? I don't think so. Western civilization is big enough for everybody to find their place in it. But it's not going to happen without religion. Everybody wants to say, oh, you can do everything without religion. Actually, you can't. Without religion, you then have nothing to hold the population together. And what will be held together is a secular ruler will impose it by just kicking everybody's butt. Almost all civilizations since the beginning of recorded time have been a secular ruler who says, do as I say or I will kick your butt. And everybody has to do what they say or they get their butt kicked. Okay, that's most places. And they're really not. They're very low level of civilization. And we're headed towards becoming that, obviously. So let's go with a couple more quotes by Toynbee. He says, a study of history would be meaningless if it did not ultimately have religious significance and a religious goal. The supreme accomplishment for an individual is to blur the line between work and play. Yeah, if you're lucky, you have fun doing your job, okay? But usually, they don't pay you because something's fun. They pay you because it's work. And then what you do for fun, you don't get paid for. I don't get paid for making this YouTube channel, but I know it's a good thing, so I keep on doing it. I'm shadow banned and ostracized, but I know it's still a good thing, so I keep doing it. And I think I get more views than I get credit for officially, because I always see preliminary view counts that are much higher than my finals. And I know I get people telling me they love my videos, so even though I'll get hardly any views with this video, I know it's good and I make it anyways. The most likely way to reach a goal is to be aiming not at the goal itself, but at some more ambitious goal beyond it. Yeah, that's true too. Try to be first in your class and you'll at least, get an A. All right, we'll continue with Toynbee here. He says, apathy can be overcome by enthusiasm. Enthusiasm is aroused by two things. First, an ideal, which takes the imagination by storm. That's why you want to learn all about your ancestors and the great things they did. That gives you motivation. It gives you inspiration. When you read about these great people of Western civilization, it motivates you to want to try to do something great too. For me, Aristotle, Thomas Aquinas, Isaac Newton, those are my three biggest academic heroes. Okay, so I try to be like them to the best of my ability. Okay, Toynbee continues, and they also need to have a definite, intelligible plan for carrying that ideal into practice. If you don't have a plan for how you're going to achieve something, then it's not really a goal, it's a fantasy. A real goal, you have a plan on what you're going to do. Okay? God bless. Like right now, I'm planning to write a book about art, but I first have to read all this book about art history and general history, and then I'll be ready to put the book together. Okay? That's my plan for writing that book. All right. Toynbee. Man's true end is to glorify God and to enjoy Him forever. You're going to see that. Most of the great people are really religious. There's some exceptions, but not that many. Being atheist makes a person half-assed most of the time, almost always. Toynbee. Love is what gives life its meaning and purpose. Okay, now here's my favorite quote from Toynbee. The brotherhood of man is based on the fatherhood of God. That's an essential point. And a lot of people think it don't matter. No, it matters big time. And one of the things great about Christianity is Christianity says, be nice to everybody. Everybody's welcome. If you look at most cultures since the beginning of the time, what they say is, our culture is good. Every other culture sucks. Let's get more powerful, then kick their ass and take their stuff. That's the history of humans on this planet since recorded time. And all these public school dumb shits don't understand that if you don't have a culture that says, love thy neighbor, be nice, forgive, give people the benefit of the doubt, try to make things work, but there still are standards everybody must live up to, then you're not going to have a civilization for long. Okay? Roads, sea routes, and their orderly maintenance serve others besides those who made them. For example, St. Paul's use of Roman roads spread Christianity. Will the higher religions of the present day make similar the worldwide communication provided by modern technology? Okay, my expectation is that the challenges presented to Western civilization in our time are going to arouse us to repent, to reform, and to lead a new life. Okay, well, the action of the creative individual may be described as twofold motion of withdrawal and return. He withdraws to learn something and seek his own personal enlightenment in a different field or area, and then he returns to share it with everyone else to help teach them. Okay, for the purpose of enlightening his fellow man. Okay, and I put that quote again because I love it. The brotherhood of man presupposes the fatherhood of God. Western civilization does not stand for technology, but for the sacredness of individual human personality. That was what was great about the West. In all these other countries, they don't do jack shit in art because some tyrant secular ruler says, do as I say, I'll kick your butt. Doesn't allow any individuality, achievement in the arts, okay? Suppresses and censors everything. It was only in Western civilization that you had a high level of free speech and creativity whereby people did all these magnificent, beautiful things. All this art and literature, it doesn't exist to any significant level in other cultures than the West. Good luck finding it. I've searched for it. I can't find it, okay? And people will say, well, oh, they did some art, and then they'll send you this big fat fertility goddess. Okay, give me a break, okay? Or the paintings they'll send you. They send me a painting, from Japan or something, The Way of Murakami. Okay, that looked like something a high school kid did in the West, all right? They got good anime. The Japanese were good with anime, but that's, comic book. That's not the same thing as Michelangelo and Raphael, etc. Edmund Layton. Okay, the emergence of a Superman or a great mystic or genius or superior personality inevitably precipitates a social conflict, and it will be more or less acute until it's decided whether it'll be supported or blocked. Okay, England has the power to save herself if she chooses to do so. Okay, mythology is an intuitive form of apprehending and expressing universal truths. I believe that humans cannot really live. Oh, I screwed up my picture. I believe they cannot really live without religion. When you come across hard times, religion confronts you and you have to grapple with it. Civilization is not an organism. It is a product of wills. The Christian impulse gave the West its great achievement. Okay. Let's see if I got anything else. I think that's about it. Oh, he talks about conditioning. The objective of conditioning is to deprive human beings permanently of their capacity to think and to will, since this is the capacity that makes us human, for good or for evil. Conditioning is an attempt to destroy human nature itself, like that idea of, get rid of the liberal arts. No, we need them. People should take all those types of classes and read and think about that stuff. Anyways, I hope you found this helpful. That was Arnold Toynbee's quotes.